What's happening, everyone? This is William Craddock with Will to Win Gaming, fresh off my 8-1 run at the Top Cut Online Regionals. Today, I'm gonna have for you a small Whitebeard deck tech, along with a how to win with Whitebeard, and most importantly, how to beat Whitebeard segment. It's one you're not gonna wanna miss. Let's go. What's happening, everyone? William Craddock with Will to Win Gaming. Real quick, we just opened our Patreon. Getting expensive, we bought a new camera, we're looking at studio space. We appreciate everyone who likes and subscribes. If you want to support us further, we have our support tier. We have some cool perks, including one-on-one coaching, even join the team. A lot of cool things here, don't forget to check it out. I'll have a link in the description. Enjoy your day and enjoy the video. Okay, first we're going to start off with the deck portion of Whitebeard. I'm not going to talk a lot about this because my list is fairly stock. It looks a lot like the other list. The only few changes I made is I cut Nico Robin completely to add 4 Vista here. And you'll have my list in the description. We'll have some shots of it so you can see it. That's my big takeaway. Nico Robin was terrible, or at least for me it was, so I cut those completely for 4 Vista. After the tournament, some changes I'd make. I'd add a 4th ace. This card is completely insane. It was huge in the mirrors, huge in pretty much every matchup, just being able to give negative to 2 guys, give you some free attacks through like a Borsalino, or you can kill an Odin, or some larger character. I'd go up to 4 ace. I'm not quite sure what I'd cut. I really did like having the 3rd guard point. That might be the only cut for the ace, but going forward, that's one of the changes I'd look to make. Otherwise, I think the deck is perfect as is. All right, so first, let's cover how to win with Whitebeard, and then we'll cover how to beat Whitebeard. The first thing about playing Whitebeard is you really have to know if you're going first or second, what you want to look for in an opening hand. If you go first, which I haven't found, it's not near as bad as people say it is, you're gonna be looking for ace, Luffy, and the 10-drop Whitebeards. If your opening hand is something that looks pretty unattractive, like 2 ace, a Luffy, and a big Whitebeard, I'm gonna say that's almost okay to okay depending on what matchup you're playing. If you're in a mirror, I might mulligan that, but against everything else, I'd probably keep it. I know it looks rough, but you gotta understand they're not attacking you for at least 2 turns, sometimes 3, and you're gonna see 3 extra cards from your life and from your deck. So not having those 2K counters in your opening hand is not as important as you might think. If you're on the draw, there's not much difference. Your aces, your Luffys, your Whitebeards, they all come down on the same curve. They're just a turn behind your opponent if you're playing a mirror. So what you really want to look for is your 4 drops and your 6K Luffys and your 6K Frankies. These are important because you don't have anything else to do on turn 2. So that's what you want to play. And a 6K for 4 is just incredible stats to go along with your 6K power leader. Now let's talk a little bit about gameplay with Whitebeard. Now I'll go into how I've found I've beat the mirror or beat Whitebeard with my other decks. But first I'm gonna talk about how to win a game with Whitebeard. Now let's get into some of the common strategies with Whitebeard. This generally doesn't change if you're going first or you're going second. For me, through the entire tournament, my strategy was for the first 3 or 4 turns, always protect my life. This is important in the Whitebeard matchup. Mirrors, Kinemon, Zoro, whatever you're playing against, you never want to take an extra point of damage until it's your last life. You want to protect every single hit that you can until you're on your absolute last life. And then depending on the board situation, you might be able to let it go. And the reason for this is if you have 2 life and you drop this 9-drop Edward Newgate, you won't lose. This was several times throughout the tournament. I dropped the 9-drop Edward Newgate, probably 6 of 9 of my rounds, and every time I was on 2 life, and the game was not even close. Now there are ways to counter this, but from the Whitebeard perspective, this is your game over plan. They won't be able to beat that, so that's what you should be looking to try to do. And using your 2Ks aggressively to defend your life will enable you to do that. So the second thing you gotta worry about with Edward Newgate is protecting your board. Your opponent will generally only aggressively come after your board or your life total, but you really need to balance keeping 1 to 2 characters in play versus keeping your life afloat. I'm always gonna lean towards keep as much life as possible. That way, if you drop your 9-drop Edward Newgate, you're just gonna win the game. So it's a balancing act, but generally your opponent's not going to switch on and off. They're gonna take a stance versus I'm gonna clear your board or I'm gonna take an extra life from you. So you need to follow suit with them and follow their pace and protect your life and your board
as you see fit versus how they attack it. Now let's get into the real reason you're watching this video, the nitty gritty, how do you beat Whitebeard? Whitebeard was dominant this past weekend at the Top Cut Online Regionals. Day one, I chose to play Kinemon, and I had a 6-3 result, which was a little disappointing, but I did not lose to Whitebeard, and I did face a couple of them. The second day, I chose to play Whitebeard, finished 8-1, much better result. I wish I'd won, but you know how that goes. And I told people after the tournament, were asking, how do you play the mirror? And even though I kind of picked up on the fly, I think I've just developed a strategy for beating the mirror or beating Whitebeard in general. So first I'm gonna talk about from a Whitebeard on Whitebeard perspective, and then I'll kind of go into how other decks should play against Whitebeard also to secure a victory. My most memorable mirror match, Whitebeard on Whitebeard, was my opponent wins the die roll, I go first. My opening hand is fairly good. I have the Rush Luffy, I have an ace, and I have the 9-drop Whitebeard, so I'm gonna play the curve I want if I'm going first, but it doesn't pan out that way. So we both pass back and forth, turn one. Turn two, I have nothing to play. I have some, I drew a 2K counter. I don't even have a Nami. So I put 3 Dawn on my leader and I attack for 9. Now, my opponents in previous round had done this when I was on the draw, and I defended it with 2 2Ks. And I thought, wow, that's aggressive, should I have done that? My opponent ends up just taking the damage, puts a card into his hand, and I pass to him. On his turn, he attacks for 6, I use a 1K to stop it, and he plays a Frankie or Luffy, pass it back to me. And now this is where things start to get interesting. I have everything I need in my hand. I have Rush Luffy, Ace, Whitebeard, the 9-drop. What should I do? Well, most people say, play Rush Luffy and attack, but that's not what I did. I put all 5 Dawn on my leader and attacked him for 11. This forced my opponent to use 3 cards to defend his life. And while this is kind of like, is it worth it to not develop a board? When you think deeper about how Whitebeard operates as a character, you're having to pick up a life every turn. And now that I'm already ahead 1 life, all I really have to do is load up my leader every turn and attack him, simply because Whitebeard cut all the blockers from their decks. This is why you need to aggressively defend your life total in the Whitebeard mirror. And I think I did this for 3 turns straight, and then I played my 9-drop Whitebeard. And while my opponent had 2 characters on board to my 1, he had no cards in hand, he had much less life, and I found this to be an effective strategy against this new version of Whitebeard that simply doesn't play blockers. But that's not only for the mirror, that's for other decks too. From other decks' perspective, Kinemon especially, because that's what I have the most experience with. I was trying to go wide on Whitebeard, and I was not having easy matchups with it. I think the go wide strategy was perfect for the Stagebeard variant of the deck, but not the current configuration of Straw Hat. What I found to be the most effective is I will get out a 6K Yamato, or maybe a 5K early on like a Okiku, and I might go wide for a turn or 2, but when my opponent uses all their Dawn to play a 4-drop or a Rush Luffy and they can't leave up something like a guard point, I'm choosing to take a turn off from developing my board and making a large attack for maybe 10, 11, or 12. And this generally is an attack that's taken by the opponent, and now, it doesn't seem important, but they are a 1 life down, and in Whitebeard, that can just be a death sentence. By nature of the mechanic where they're picking up a life every turn, now that they're 1 life down and you can play something like a Kazuki Odin, they're not gonna have any way to defend it. Even if they play their Edward Newgate, they're generally on 1 life or 0 at this point, just because they took that extra hit. And this strategy isn't perfect, there's a lot of X factors to it, but I found this is the best way to beat Whitebeard currently, is pick a turn to go tall with your character, meaning put a bunch of Dawn under it, and swing when they can't have something like a guard point or a radical beam up. This strategy has proven itself effective in tournament already. I've played maybe 5 or 6 Whitebeard games with the mirror and Kinemon in later winning brackets of high-level tournaments. I played it several times at locals, at win-a-boxes, win-a-cases, things like that. The strategy is not foolproof, but I think you will see your win rate go up against those experienced Whitebeard players when you stop trying to go wide and start going tall. All right, guys, this has been my how to play, and more importantly, how to beat Whitebeard. I didn't have too much information, but I hope the information I did have is relevant to your tournaments. Please like and subscribe, and as always, we're going to continue to bring you great content. If you have any questions, put comments in the video. We'd love to talk to y'all. See you next time. I know.
I don't want to be touched, bro.
I know. That's whoa, 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 whoa. Hey. Shh, shh, shh. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Shh, shh, shh. Look, you're down. It's okay.